everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Assalamu alaikum. Wherever you are, whenever you are, I hope that every and each one of you living a comfortable life in his or her place. Today we are going to talk about what do we mean by thinking outside the box. What is the box? The box is a rigid structure. The box is a rigid structure. The structure has got walls, ceiling, top, and bottom, which is the base. And within this rigid structure, you find that people cannot move easily inside it. Our life has a box. The box of our life is the atmosphere around us, that we are living inside such atmosphere. The box of our life is the atmosphere or the climate. Listen. Each one of us has a box, and we live inside our box according what? According what we have learned from our society, according what we have in ourselves as talents or as abilities, according to our education, according to our culture, and all this kind of thing will enable me to live inside the box that's surrounding my life while I'm still living on earth. So none of us can live without a box, but sometimes the box could be a tool of controlling you, a tool of reducing your ability to think. The question is now, can we live outside the box or not? Each one of us has to ask himself or herself, can we live outside the box or not? Not all of us can take the risk of living outside the box, because when you live inside the box, you live inside the traditional thing that you do every day, every week, every month, every year for years. So it's a very comfortable zone. It's a very stable. You don't have to think too much. You do the same thing 100 or 1,000 times or millions of times in your life. But when you decide to try to come outside the box, you will face another challenge. A lot of challenges, changing challenges. These challenges could be extremely difficult, could be extremely hard, could be even destructive to you and your life if you cannot manage yourself. So coming outside the box is not a good choice for the people who cannot have do not have the ability to live outside the box. Living outside the box actually have two contradicting results. One of them, or not only one of them, each one of them will depend on the individual himself or herself. If I am very strong, very able, very visionary individual who have talent, okay, I will be able to manage my life outside the box and face all the challenge, because I have the characteristics of meeting challenges, changing atmosphere, and making the proper social changes. If you are one of those people, I advise you not to live inside the box, but live outside the box, because you will be very successful, because you would like to have a bigger space for yourself to produce what you want to do for your society. The second one is an individual who is very traditional, does not have the ability like the first one, who is always hesitant, always changing his mind or her mind 24/7, gets used only to do the very traditional work, does not have an identity, does not have brilliant ideas, and all his ideas is contradicting one another. If this man or this woman try to live outside the box, it will be very, very, very challenging and destructive for themselves. Better to live inside the box. None of us, not all of us, not all of us actually, will have the ability to live outside the box. Who is the leader? Like yourself, like herself, like ourselves. Actually, a leader, what one of the characteristics of the leaders? The leader cannot live inside this rigid box. The leaders cannot live inside these rigid boxes. One of their characteristics is that we all agree upon is the leader can create the atmosphere to allow his followers or her followers to explore their potential and be able to make the change. Such a climate will let them to be able to make the change, the positive change in society, so they can change the society because the leader allowed them to live in the atmosphere that he created for them, the positive atmosphere. Another characteristic for the leader is, beside making such an atmosphere, actually, he could create to a certain category of people another more flexible, expanding, changing boxes, not the rigid boxes which have been created for us by the society. Because the society around us creating a rigid box and putting us inside it. But such a leader who are able to create this kind of flexible, expanding and changeable actually, or changing boxes for such an individual who are actually traditional and get used to live inside the box and don't have the ability to live in the outside atmosphere. He put them in this kind of expanding boxes. Actually, this is the second characteristic of such a leader who either create an atmosphere or at the same time build this kind of flexible offices. You know why? Because this will enable him to get all his followers who get used to live inside the rigid boxes because of their inability to come outside to the open atmosphere. So we have got the rigid boxes actually made by the society, the flexible, expanding, changeable boxes created by the pioneering leadership, or the atmosphere that such leader to create for his followers to explore their potential so they can make the positive social change. Okay? As I mentioned before to us, the society and the family are boxing us inside their own boxes, which is filled by traditional, by culture, by values and by other. And sometimes the society is controlling us. Not sometimes, most of the time. Here we have to revolt against that, and we tell them, okay, fine, we cannot make positive social change unless we break these walls of the boxes, or make expanding boxes, or we create a new atmosphere, and we face the challenges in the society. And the family tradition as well is another box. Oh, don't do that, do that, don't do that, do that, don't do that. No. It is good, but not good enough. Let me give you an example of how can we live outside the box. I remember 1993, which was a pioneering idea. Soon our registered Islamic relief in UK, 1989, we decided to go outside the box of our community in Birmingham, the box of our community in UK, the box of our community in Europe. What did we decide to do? We decided to join the United Nations, to a bigger, more flexible, a wide global box, to be inside the decision-making machine, to be a part of the decision-making people, to learn from them. And what we learned a lot, because we were attending most of the meetings, which could be in Africa, in Latin America, maybe in Asia, maybe in South Africa, maybe in Europe, maybe in America, maybe in Canada, to learn and to see different ideas and to explore what actually the achievement of other nations and other organizations. Such a decision in 1993, more than 30 years ago, made us to be protected during September the 11th. During September the 11th. And when we look at it this way, look at the history of the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to send his followers, Sahaba Kiram, radiallahu anhum, especially after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, in spite of the fact that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was not a just treaty to the Muslims and made Umar and Abu Bakr to argue with one another, because Umar was very mad about how did we accept such a treaty, and Abu Bakr told him, keep quiet, it is the Prophet actually who is accepting this, so don't talk about the Prophet. So when he used to send his followers during this period of peace to spread da'wah, he never gave them a way to spread the da'wah. He let every and each one of them to spread the da'wah according to his understanding, after knowing what is the da'wah about. It's about Tawheed. So the main message was Tawheed, justice, social change. But the way he let every one of his companions to spread da'wah in different parts of the world, made it to be done by himself only. So those people who went to as far as China, went to Africa, went to Middle East, went to Europe and the others, each one of them was discovering a new climate, and according to the climate, he was accommodating the da'wah at the time. This is Hudaybiyah. The second one, Prophet ﷺ was looking at the pioneering idea at the time of the battlefield of Al-Ahzab, which is actually when all the parties or everybody came to surrounding Al-Madinah, and the Muslims were about nearly 3,000 people, and the Kafir was about more than 10,000 people. All the tribes came together to fight the Prophets. Came somebody who was not an Arab originally, Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi, and told Prophet Muhammad, he said yes. He said, can we dig a ditch? He said, what does it mean? Because this was not practiced in the Arabian Peninsula. He said he showed him how to dig it, and they dug it. This became the barrier between the army of the disbeliever and the few Muslim who are actually defending Medina. 10,000 against 3,000 actually. So it gave them a protective way of a protective method to protect themselves and protect the army and Al-Madinah as well. So Prophet ﷺ was always looking for new ideas, was always looking for ideas outside the box, or always thinking outside the box, while actually he was protecting his own community and was spreading the da'wah, because he has the message to deliver and the message actually to protect the society as well. When we look again here, we are talking about thinking outside the box, thinking outside, fine, that's fine. But thinking outside the box without a regulation is wrong. The difference between being inside the box, boxed, traditional man, and he cannot come and think outside, and somebody who open all the doors without any control. This kind of opening the doors without any control means that I may be losing my identity, I may be losing my values, I may be losing my character, I may be losing my history, I may lose my morality, my all this kind of. So if we open the boxes, or we think outside the box, or we go outside the box, we should not look like others. We should look like ourselves. We should keep our identity, keep our values, keep our moral system, and respect our principles while we are working outside the box. This is actually for the people who think, oh, I am in Europe, let me do, if I am Rome, let me do what the Romans are doing. No. No. Absolutely wrong. If I am in Rome, I am still a Muslim. If I am in Los Angeles, I am still a Muslim. If I am in Las Vegas, you know what Las Vegas means? I am still a Muslim. If I am anywhere, I am still a Muslim, have got my principles, have got my identity, have got my character. I am open-minded, but with an identity. Don't ever lose your identity when you think that you be to thinking, when you think that you actually thinking outside the box or working outside the box. Working outside the box is something challenging. We need to have it, but we need to have it regulated. Without regulation, without knowledge, without understanding, without bonding with one another, particularly when we are a minority in the West or in the East, whether we are in China in the East, or we are in actually America in the Far West, actually we should come together to maintain our identity while we are actually thinking outside the box. Thinking outside the box was one of the characteristics not only of the social workers, but of the prophets and of the messengers of Allah and of the pioneer people, because they were looking for something that the society cannot see. They were trying to discover something that the society does not understand. That's why most of those people who were thinking outside the box left heritage, wealth of knowledge for generations to come, in spite of the fact some of them were being killed by their own society when they were actually explaining to them the new idea. Always the new idea come out of the people who think outside the box. Please, brothers and sisters, please, daughter and sons, please, auntie and uncle, think outside the box, but within regulation. Don't lose your identity while you are thinking outside the box. And teach your children to think outside the box and to present their identity at the same time when they actually think outside the box. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week in the second episode. Dear everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are, wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wish that you are having a very blessed and prosperous and tranquil life. Inshallah, Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Today we'll talk about the month of Ramadan and the fifth pillar of Islam, which is fasting. Fasting, as all of you know, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. The goodness of Ramadan, not only because we fast, but inside the fasting there's many opportunities for us and many blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why this month is very different to any other month? Because it's the month where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Holy Quran, the constitution for life of the living, the distinction, make the distinction between the right and wrong, not only for the Muslims. No. Also for the non-Muslims. If the non-Muslim would love to see the distinction between right and wrong, go and read the Quran. In it is the history of the people before us. And in it as well, there's what's going to happen to the people after us. It's in it, and actually inside the Quran, it is actually the origin of humanity, the sources of science and technology, which have been discovered later on, and so on and so on. This actually, that's why Allah revealed this manhaj, or this constitution, which is called the Quran, guidance. ربنا سبحانه وتعالى إيه؟ الهدى للناس. He said, not only هدى للمسلمين, guidance for mankind, not guidance for Muslim. Okay, and it is the month of giving. It's the month of provision from Allah. What do you mean by that? The beginning of Ramadan is mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The middle of Ramadan is forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the end of Ramadan is to being victorious and to be shielded from the fire of hell. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Inside this month, any sunnah that you do or any good action that you do in Ramadan, its reward will be equivalent to the reward of a fard outside Ramadan. And any fard in Ramadan will be equivalent to 70 fard in reward in any other month. So this is how Allah will give us this kind of multiple, or the abundance of reward in Ramadan. Inside Ramadan, one of the blessings of Ramadan is a night, Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, far more better than the worship of 83 years, which is 1,000 months. Okay, this is when we look at this night at the last 10 days of Ramadan and the odd nights. And also, nobody, I just kept for Allah, nobody will know the reward of his or her fasting at all. The only one who will know that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Abu Hurairah said on the authority of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Allah said, every action, كل عمل ابن آدم له إلا الصوم فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به. Every act or action of son of Adam is for him. I will tell him what he will know what he has. But actually, the fasting will be for me, and I am the one who will tell him and her, or you and you and you and you, the reward when I meet with you. Also, it is the month of worship, when we actually submit our souls, we submit our senses, we submit our feeling and our life totally to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this could be the most blessed thing that Allah love you to do it for him. The Shahr al-Ibadah. Also, Shahr Ramadan is Shahr al-Badl wal-Ata, which actually the giving, the month of provision. And even Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said on the authority of the Prophet that actually Sayyidina Jibreel used to come to revise Quran with the Prophet in Ramadan. Okay? And Prophet generosity will be more than the generous than the wind itself when it brings the good news to us. The goodness out of what the Prophet will be more than the goodness of the rih, which coming to us. And also, which is very important to everybody. Forget about just the provision, forget about the personal worshipping, forget about the citation of Quran, forget about all this. It is the month of jihad. Jihad is the utmost or the top point in the life of man. And inside this month, how many battlefields I mentioned to you today? Not all of them. First battlefield was the battlefield of Badr. It was on 17th of Ramadan on the second Hijri year. And it was called the day of distinction. Distinction between the power of haqq, the power of righteousness, and the power of falsehood. That was on the second year of Hijrah, as well as 17th of Ramadan. Also, in the month of Ramadan, the conquest of Mecca. It was on the 20th of Ramadan, on the 8th year of Hijrah. So it was a war. Also, in the month of Ramadan, the place called Al-Buwayyib was Suf al-Muthanna, conquered on the 13th of Ramadan in the 13th Hijri year, when they were actually fighting the Persian. Also, the conquest of Sindh. Sindh is in Pakistan nowadays, between Pakistan and India. This was conquered actually on the 92nd year of Hijrah. You know who conquered it? A young man like your brother or your son or your grandson. His name was Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, and his age was 17 years old. And this meant that he was a secondary school student at our time now. So when you look at our children nowadays, at the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, oh, they are too young. Please don't expose them. Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, who was the one who was leading the army who conquered a Sindh. Also in this month, it is the conquest of Andalusia. Tariq ibn Ziyad, actually as well, in the year 92 Hijri. Also the conquest of Ammuriya was in the year 223 Hijri, actually at the time of Al-Mu'tasim Billah, who was an Abbasi Khalifa, when the woman, you remember the story of the woman who said, oh Mu'tasama, which was actually humiliated by the people in Ammuriya. And he went with the army. This was actually in I think 223 Hijri. And the battlefield of Zurlaqa in Spain was in the month of Ramadan in the year 479 Hijri. Also the battlefield of Hattin, again is the crusade in where Salah ad-Din conquered it and actually claimed Jerusalem another time. It's in the year 583 Hijri. Also the battlefield of Ain Jalut in 26th of Ramadan in year 658 Hijri, and on the leadership of Saifuddin Qutuz actually, and against the Mughal and the Tatar. Also number 10 is crossing Parlif line in 1973 war on the 10th day of Ramadan. All this, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, every one of you, happened in Ramadan. Now, let us talk about some of the questions which I have received. First of all, the first question is Ramadan the month of worship only and the not working? It's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. You can combine both of them. Okay, work and worship Allah. No, work and worship Allah. Work and worship Allah. Work and worship Allah. Why? I gave you some of the examples. During the month of Ramadan, actually, we were fasting and we were building Islamic relief, and all the Muslim charities at that time, 1984, 85, 86, 87, and 8, and actually were going day and night to work from door to door, distribute leaflets, from shop to shop, from street to street, from mosque to mosque, till after Taraweeh. Even between Maghrib and Taraweeh, we used to go to pray in 2 or 3 mosques. One before Maghrib, another one at the time of Isha, actually mosque, another one at the time of Taraweeh, another one at the time of actually Salat al-Qiyam, the last dua. Not only that, I will tell you something, brothers. During this month, we never had any iftari or sihri with our family for years, because we were out from day 1 of Ramadan till the day of Eid and after the day of Eid. All of us working, going, striving, helping, raising fund, and making public awareness to the people to respond to the needs of the people. It never was, the second question, the month of laziness. I was in one of the Arab countries, and you know what? And at that time, actually, what was my first time to be in this country during Ramadan, and we woke up after Fajr, I prayed Fajr, we look out, we want to go here and there. Nobody opened the shops till Zuhr prayer. Or till some of them even opened before Asr prayer. They were sleeping. Wrong. Absolute wrong. Absolute wrong. Okay? A second question is, does the fasting regulate and organize your time as a Muslim, absolutely right. Because actually, yes, we know what time we take our iftari, what time we take our sihri, what time we pray, what time we wake up, what time we make qiyam al-layl, what time we make i'tikaf, and so on and so on. So it's a month of regulation and organization. Also, actually, it corrects some of our habits. It led us to go and visit mosque quite often. In the other days, quite often we don't go and pray jama'ah in the mosque. Either we pray it at work, or we pray it with our family, or pray it alone. But in Ramadan, quite often we go there to do this prayer in the mosque. And it is also another question is, does the month of Ramadan is changing your life and discover your potential? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What actually, when we went to register Islamic Relief in United Nations in New York, it was in the last 10 days or the last 3 days of Ramadan. And we were fasting, all of us were fasting, 3 of us went to New York, and we landed without breaking our fasting. We broke our fasting in the hotel. Then we decided to sit down, actually, to relax, to discuss what is going to be discussed the second day. And we have agreed together that actually to be led by in the discussion by one of our senior brothers. His name was Khalid, and he gave us all the names on all the questions that were going to be asked the following day. We were for hours discussing these points, and we traveled 1 hour doing this, and we went next day to the big hall, which have about 50 or 100 ambassadors to ask us. To be very honestly, we were asked the same question has been raised by Khalid the night before. And this is Futuhat Rabbaniya. So, traveling, fasting, breaking the fasting, staying the whole night to revise what are going to be discussed next day, and going to the show. We were asked the same questions at the same point, and at the end of the day, actually, I came down and no decision was made. Okay? So what I have done, one of the individuals told me in the room, go around and lobby everybody. Even if they didn't know at the time, what do you mean by lobbying? She told me, go and give information about your organization to all the ambassadors. I did that. Unfortunately, I keep always saying that there were 3 Arab ambassadors at the time. They turned their back to me. I ignored them, and they went around and around until Friday came, and I was told by another ambassador that actually we are going to be putting you on a roster status for 2 years. I said, what? I went to the stage, took the microphone in my hand, and the chairwoman, the lady chairman, she told me, can you come down, sir? I said, no, I'm not coming down. I've been here for the week, and they give you everything you want. And why you gave me a roster status? The situation was difficult, till the Irish ambassador raised his hand and said, I support Islamic Relief. We have to fight in Ramadan in a different high level at United Nations to take our rights. It's not a month of, oh, yes, no. And we did it. And the ambassador said, come next week, next Monday, and we'll discuss Islamic Relief issue on Monday morning, 9 o'clock. And I'll give the chance to one of the ambassadors to read, which was objecting the presence of Islamic Relief at United Nations. Monday morning, I came back, and alhamdulillah, the decision was, after another Arab ambassador said, okay, I'm going to support you, which was the Sudanese ambassador, and they gave a very good speech about Islamic Relief, and we have got 2 people to support Islamic Relief at the time, and we got the registration. So we fought hard to get our rights inside United Nations. Okay. What do we need? Another question came to me, and what do we need to achieve in Ramadan? What we need to win heaven in Ramadan. We need to help people in Ramadan. We need to bring happiness and joy and tranquility to everyone in Ramadan. We need to be drawing the smile on the faces of the children in Ramadan and after Ramadan. And this is what we did as a group of young people from the 80s and 90s, and we introduced the word of volunteerism to the Muslim community in the West, from the far West in Canada and America, France, Germany, England, and others, Sweden, and this is what we achieved. Nowadays, after 40 years, we can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of organizations coming from different parts of the West, actually following what we have done 40 years ago. And this is Ramadan. And this Ramadan which I want you, Ramadan is not the month of laziness. Ramadan is not the month of backwardness. Ramadan is the month of discovering, of achieving, of excelling, of fasting, of striving, of giving, of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and winning heaven and winning this life as well. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers, colleagues, sisters, friends, everywhere and anywhere, wherever you are, whenever you are, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, good day. Today we're talking about a different subject, which is generation age and successive generations, generation gaps, and the way we deal with different generations in the West. Before we go to discuss this in depth, we need to talk about generation age. I put 11 points in trying to relate generation age into different social changes. First one, generation age and technological development. What is the impact of technological development on the generation age? Number two, generation age and the speed of social communication, social media. Number three, generation age and the abundance or the plethora of the available information on social media. Number four, generation age and the inability of the young people to comprehend this kind of information. Generation age and the lack of patience to read, write, listen and comprehend from the younger generation. Number six, generation age and the plethora of change, social change in the society day in and day out. Number seven or eight, generation age and the increased number of natural disasters, climate change, because of climate change, and then actually the armed conflicts. the generation age and the lack of social services available for the society. There's no social service anymore because most of the money is spent on military or security. Generation age and the shortness of the age of people living on this planet. We find that people live less life because less resources, because lack of resources and less social services they have. Generation age and the relation with the increased number of street children. Generation age and the impact of economical, moral, social problems on this kind of generations. Generation age and the weakness or the lack of educational facilities provided to the young children and the spread of ignorance in the society. Generation age and the second generation or the first generation and the relation between the first and the second and third generation. This kind of generation age and the relationship with the changes in the social climate, it is very, very impacting on the life of the second generation, whether we live in the north or south or east and west. When we look at the west, I came to the west 1977, which means nearly 50 years ago. Before me, actually came to UK, was another generation, came from Asia and from Africa after the Second World War. Those kind of the first generation who came with high moral value, high commitment for community bonding, high commitment for spreading the religious values, high commitment for building a very strong connecting and bonding social life for the younger generation. They build what? They build the corner shop, which feed halal food. They build the mosques. They build the community center, and they were striving their life by hands and legs and everything to try to earn their living and build this kind of social infrastructure for the second generation, which came later on. The second generation, when they came with a gap. The first generation could not be able to speak the language, do not know the local culture, do not know the local, understand the local values. But they came with this high spirit. They were high spirited to build this kind of infrastructure for the second generation to come, who found mosques, found community centers, found corner shop, which later on became institutions, became schools, became companies, became factories, and. When we look at the gap between the first one, which I lived this time in UK, when I found that some of the youngsters were a little bit ashamed of that their father or their parents could not be able to speak English, and they were just shying out, not showing their parents or exposing their parents to the public. This was my struggle at that time, because I came from a second generation after their parents. So I was actually between the generation of the younger generation of this, which is born by the first generation, and the first generation. So I was one of the people who are defending actually the quality and the commitment and the spirit of the first generation. This gap is always there. This gap is always there. Why? Because my father, who came to England or came to America or came to Europe or came to any part of the world, his idea of community building is focused and spinning around the moral value that he has at home in Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or whatever you call it, Muslims or non-Muslims. And they wanted their children to preserve such an identity. Okay? Plus, protecting their chastity in a very open society, Western society. That's why this gap came out between, actually become growing actually become bigger because of the educational system has its culture, its values, its moral system, its philosophy of thinking, and my generation who came to UK or to Europe or to America or to the West having other moral and social value and social norms and culture as well. So here, how can we sort out this problem? How can we find a way to bridge the gap between the first generation, the second generation, the third generation, and the fourth generation, and so on? We have to tell the second generation to listen to how far the first generation faced the difficulties to build your mosque, to build your church, to build your school, to build your madrasa, to build the corner shop, to build the culture, to print even the book, to teach your local language, whether it's Urdu or Hebrew or Arabic or Swahili or Punjabi or Gujarati or Bengali, whatever you call it. Actually, we came here. We have to make this kind of mutual communication between the parents' generation and the younger people's generation by involving them. Listen to this. By involving them with the mosque management or the shop management or the company management or the institution management in the decision-making process. So when the younger generation come to the institution, which could be a religious institution, theological institution, others, they are learning from the first generation how they strived very hard and spend their life and they invest their life in paving the way for the second generation and telling the second generation, do not lose the track and try to balance between your culture, your values, your moral system, as well as the good culture, the good values, and the good moral system in the country that you live, and to protect them actually according to your religion, without involving the younger generation in the management and the consultation of the how to run our institution. Actually, at that time or later on, we will have this gap forever. Not only younger generation, let me stress, not only younger generation, let me stress, I'll say it again, not only younger generation, let me stress the woman participation in the building process of any social infrastructure, whether it is a mosque, community center, or Islamic center, or a factory, or humanitarian organization, or social organization. Why I'm talking about the woman? A woman is my mother. A woman is my wife. A woman is my daughter. A woman is my niece. A woman is my auntie. A woman is my grandma. A woman is my neighbor. A woman is my colleague in the office. So they looking at the society and the community differently to us. So if I want to bridge the gap, okay? Bridge the gap. Then now the gap is like this. I want to bridge the gap, okay? If I want to bridge the gap, I have to allow or to empower such generation and gender in my management. So the generation, which is the younger generation, to be a part of the process of consultation and a part of the process of decision maker. Younger boys, younger men and younger women, plus the woman as well. You know why? Because the younger generation have different speed of thinking, speed of reaction, speed of vision, speed of looking the process of change differently. They have the power of speed. Actually, this is them. That's why I need them, or we need them. The women in the society have another value. They have the culture differently. They have the emotion. They have the love. They have the care. They have the commitment. They have the tediousness of dealing with the nitty-gritty thing in the community more than the men. The elder men could have more wisdom and more experience. So on one side, wisdom and experience. On another side, the love and the care and the bonding of the woman. And the third side is the power of young people and the strength and the direction and the speed of their action. I have to bring the three on the table to be a part of the process of thinking, planning, deciding, and leading and empowering the younger generation while I am in office. I have to empower, or we have to empower the younger generation and women to be in office while I am in office with them, to be leaders while I am a leader, to create leaders, not to create followers. Most of our mosques and our Islamic centers, unfortunately, not creating leaders, but creating followers. You know, the proverb saying, a leader will create leaders. Huh? A leaders will create leaders and will not create followers. The one who creates followers is a dictator, not a leader. Is somebody who does not understand the depth of the dimension and the multiplicity of action of the local community. The one who sideline the young people, the one who sideline women from the decision making, the one who sideline other culture, other society, other ethnic group from decision making is not a leader. A leader is not a sect, is not a sectarian individual, is not a politician that can play the cards between this community and this community and this community and this community. No, it's not that way. It doesn't go this way. A leader creates a leader. A dictator creates followers. Because dictator cannot tolerate the other opinion, or the second opinion, or the third opinion, or the younger age opinion, or the woman's opinion, because he is or she is a dictator. He is from this group. He only looks, or she only looks, at the interests of their own group. A leader should be more inclusive, more leading or dealing with participatory approach. What do I mean by a participatory approach? To try to engage the local community in most what we doing for them. Because how can I do something or develop something or produce some product for a community without their consultation? This is how we need to look at to bridge the gap between generation A, generation B, generation C, generation H. Why? Because the speed of event and the speed of change and the speed of problems affecting different communities at this time is more than we expect and more than our capacity as organization. And before I conclude my statement or my message today, in our society, no matter how big or small, the amount of problem facing each individual in the society is beyond the capacity and the capability and the resources of one organization, of one sect, of one group of thought. No, you can't deal with everything. Because the rising number of the processes of social changes, not social change, social changes is incredible and beyond the capability of one organization. Even if your organization is a global organization, it still needs to build partnership, mostly important with the local community, with the young people, with all the different races and culture and the value-based organization in the country as well. This is how we keep to bridge the gap between different generations. We cannot do it alone. The 60 age, the 70 years age, the 70 years old, the 70 years old cannot do it alone anymore. And they have to learn how to empower the younger generation and women while they are in office. This is how, whether we are in the west or in the east or the north or in the south or anywhere, or in this planet or in Mars or Jupiter or in any other planet in the universe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I don't allow the younger generation and women to be with me in the organization, I nurture them to make them future leaders, I am a failure. I am a failure. I am a failure. No matter how many millions of followers are following my organization, I am a failure because I am correcting Muppets. I'm creating not only Muppets, followers, and no leadership. The leader creates leader. The leader creates the flow, which let other people to follow his or her flow. And the leader does not follow the flow of other people. He or she always creating the flow for the community, for the society, for the humanity, okay? And does not follow the flow of others. He learns or she learns from the flow of others, but creating a flow that let everybody to be proud that they are following their own flow. But leader cannot or should not create followers. Leaders create flow and create leaders to follow them. And this is how we need to build the bridge between this generation and generations to come. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the other episode soon.